On this episode, we take the show on the road to South Austin and remix episode 20. My guest is Carlton, and like me, his garage is his office. So I visited his space, known as Blue Sky Strongbox, where he's been impacting lives since 2008. Since we last sat down, we've endured a pandemic, Carlton lost both his parents, and in his own words, he became a complete adult. We also talk about how he navigated it without drugs or alcohol, instead leaning into exercise, music, and nature. Let's jump in.
My old weights over there on the ground, the round dumbbells, and
I was noticing dumbbell collection.
I got a bunch of randos, but they've got, of course, they all have stories. Even all these, they kind of have like cool stories.
Do you find that people just give you weights?
They try. I
you have to turn them down, right?
Yeah, I could have 4 gyms. Like people try to give me treadmills, full racks and everything. I'm like, I'm good, thank you. I would just say donate it to somebody at some school who needs it or something.
We don't do that with anything else, do we?
No.
It's not like I collect sneakers and someone goes like, "Hey, I have these old sneakers. You want these?"
I know.
They don't do that.
No.
That almost goes, but that goes to the like weights are kind of worthless.
I know, and I'm like,
it's weird, right?
The ones that I initially took that I kept, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take them, but then the bucket's full now. So.
What were you going to show me?
Oh, license plates. People bring me license plates now. They're like, hey, you want this license plate? I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't have that one.
People, now this is really cool. People bring me stuff on the podcast.
Yeah.
To put up in the garage and stickers, stuff like that. But that's another thing that's cool about the space.
Yeah.
Tell me about this space. What does this space mean to you?
I mean, at this point, there's a lot of history. It's like this is a safe space for me and for everybody who comes in here. This is, because we're at like my house. This is also like the walkthrough. So it's, this is kind of my history. And I'm such an eclectic person. This is like my musical interest, my fitness interest, all the national park stuff. Like I said, all the signs that I've taken over the years and. Just pieces. I'm starting to put photographs in here, and just things that mean a lot to me because I'm in this space a lot. So I want it to reflect me, but I also want to like get inspiration from it. So everything in here's pretty much got a story, and I really, really dig that.
Well, I think that what do you think people or what do people say they experience when they come work with you in this space?
They feel really comfortable. It's funny because I've had a couple of therapists just since the pandemic that I work with, and they joke with me that I'm their therapist, and I get that a lot. So people come here, and I think they feel really safe. They can be who they want to be. I mean, that was my whole thing. Why I think I moved to Austin because I just wanted to move to a place where I didn't get no shit for being anything, but I could just be me. And I want everybody coming here to be comfortable, feel safe, and be the best version of themselves. In turn, that makes me feel like I'm the best version of myself, and it's win-win, and it's this synergy that is like after all these years, it's you feel it, every day.
You grew up in Tyler, right?
Mm-hmm. Tyler, Texas.
What was it like to grow up in Tyler?
My experience may differ from others, but I had a great experience. But I did see a lot, like as far as the have-nots, the closed-mindedness. But I also went to college there, so I got exposed to open-mindedness and academia and worldviews. But there was definitely and when I was growing up, there was an absence of that. But there were a lot of small-town values that I still value. I'm definitely I would say more liberal than conservative by all means, but there's something about a small town in Texas. I grew up, like I said, my dad was in the military, my grandparents were both my grandfathers were in the military, but they were more conservative. My dad, hunted and fished. My whole family did, so I grew up with all that. But I skateboarded, played in rock bands, played in the woods and built forts. And I was kind of a country boy too, but I had a great upbringing, and I went to a high school that was predominantly African American, probably black, and I went to a junior high for a little bit between elementary and high school that was predominantly white, exact opposite, and more rural. And most of the kids there were all about the same income except for the country club kids. So I got exposed to like really rich rural farmers, wealthy country club kids, mostly white, a lot of racism, a lot of all that. And then when I came back to high school, to the school that was in my district, I was the minority, and everybody was kind of on a level playing field, and that was really a good experience. That's when I played in rock bands, had long hair, got a tattoo my senior year. It was all that. It was very, very diverse. But I played sports. I never drank and did drugs. I had a lot of friends, but I had a great upbringing. But by the time I went to 21 and did a couple of years of college there, by 21, I was ready to move here, and just Austin just seemed like with the music and just the freedom and the vibe. I came here a couple times and the vibe was just off the charts. Completely different vibe than where I grew up. But, I still got love for Tyler in East Texas, and up until my parents passed away a couple years ago, I went home very, very often, and actually I'm going home in a few more weeks. So.
In a small town where people fall into that whole racism, small town thinking and stuff like that, how do you think that that didn't affect you? Were you always going to be out of there?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my parents were both college educated. They were not racist. We grew up treating everybody the same, and so and I had friends that were all different, come from all different backgrounds, all different colors, all different everything. I always wondered. I mean, my grandparents were really sweet people. My parents were really sweet people. Not everybody gets out of there and has that experience, but I felt like there was no way I was not going to be that. I just never felt any of that, but I definitely was around it. I mean, I was around it a lot, and there was a point in junior high where I was hanging out with like specifically some people that were really racist. I mean, I didn't know it because they were my friends at the time. I had kind of moved out of district for a little bit, was hanging out with some new people for a little bit. And it was funny, like I realized after a couple of years that, wow, I just did a couple of things that like, I wasn't proud of it. It came from out of nowhere. So I know that it can, you got to be careful who you're around. So I realized that in my ninth grade year, I told my mom, I was like, I still had friends in this town. It was actually Lindale, Texas, but, which is where Pat Mahomes' dad is from.
Oh,
so it was a pretty big deal, little town. Miranda Lambert's from there. But I told my mom, I was like, I'm not going to finish out high school here. I want to go back to my district. And I came back and everything worked back in place. I felt things getting out of balance. So I don't know. I'm just glad I was around really good people, and I didn't go down that route. It's a lot of people did.
So you've experienced pain. Have you experienced anxiety?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the last couple of years were by far the roughest of my whole life. I'm hoping it will be the roughest I'll ever have to deal with, but probably not. But never had much anxiety until a lot of loss. My dad, who took care of Erica's, my wife's father, in hospice at home for a year and a half. They both passed. And then my mother and stepfather, who I was very, very, very close with, both sick and passed. And then after all that, this was all away. I'm here in Austin. This is 4 hours away up in East Texas. I was to settle all their estates. And there's quite a few of his kids, like step siblings and all that. But I had to deal with all the legal stuff. I had to clean out 3 houses. had my mother-in-law lives with us. It was a lot long, and it was a pandemic, and still working full time because I'm not rich, and have to work. The anxiety built up really, really high. I didn't sleep hardly at all for about 6 months, and that contributed to the anxiety. Probably the unhealthiest I've ever been. I mean, I probably didn't look it, but man, the stress was out the roof. I just couldn't sleep. That's when I started walking early in the morning. I'd get up at that time I wasn't sleeping. I was getting up at 3 or 4 in the morning when I just knew that I couldn't settle down, that I would go walk. I really was worrying about a lot of stuff that probably was obviously beyond my control, and stuff that I probably couldn't have done anything about at the time. But I was also thinking a lot about my own mortality and death, and I still do. I can't say that I like it. It's fun. I think I thought of suffering. I thought about end of life a lot. And that can bring a lot of anxiety. Even doing what we do, working in fitness all these years and working with health and all that, I know the importance of sleep, good food, good people around you, exercise, nature, music, laughter, all those things. But man, there are times when you're doing everything, you're trying to do everything right, and it's still not enough, and anxiety builds up high. And but I never wanted to drink or do drugs or anything like that. But like trying to figure out a way to mitigate pain.
So that was kind of my question. I was going to ask about you, have you experienced depression before? And if you've experienced any of these things, how did you keep yourself from drinking and drugging when stuff got really tough? Because that's where most people find it, right?
At this point, it's just my MO. It's just the way I am. I don't think I can ever do that. But it get dark. I was never suicidal or going to hurt myself, but there was definitely some really effing dark thoughts. It's just I had to watch a lot of suffering too, and it was just I had to hear suffering and screams, and had to turn off the machine. Well, I tell the nurse to turn off the machine for my mom, and these things are just tragic. You don't want to go through them, And then it's just man, it was a lot, but I just tried to stay focused to the things. Luckily, I have a really blessed life. I have a good wife, a dog, and a cat. I have a wonderful brother. I have wonderful, wonderful friends and family, and a really good life. And I've taken care of myself up to this point. So I think it all that served me so well when I couldn't really get through it. And I never really did ask for help. I'm not the type to ask for help, but it got to a point where if it got any worse, I was going to have to ask for a life preserver, and that was a little worrisome when you've been in control all these years. I prided myself on being strong and always being that one, but man, I realized that you can get overwhelmed with a lot of grief or a lot of life stuff, and it just kicked your ass. But came out of it. We came out of it. My wife is awesome, and we went through all this together because her dad passed. She had to take care of her estate. And it was, like I said, estate. It wasn't like a lot of money necessarily, anything like that. It's just, if you ever have to go through legal stuff and do the courts and deal with siblings and all that, it can be stressful. And but man, the power of exercise, particularly, I never missed my exercise. I didn't sleep well. I didn't eat well, but exercise I could always do, even if it was just short. I always could walk. I could always lift weights. Could always stretch. And I knew that for me, the other two things that are really important, besides friends and family, nature and music. So nature and music, ideally together. So I would go in the backyard during the nice weather months, not the hot months, and bring my guitar, bass, and music out there and write new songs and work on music and play outdoors underneath the big trees in our backyard, and that was super therapeutic. And trying to read different things and just trying to find my groove, and I found it. And hopefully it'll serve me well. But man, life is going to throw some freaking punches, man. I'm hoping that we went through it a little earlier than a lot of people are going to go through it, but everybody's going to go through it. Losing your parents, you never feel like a full adult until you go through all that kind of stuff. And the only things I can imagine after this would be just when we have our own health issues and get scared and have our own life-death experiences, which most of us are going to have.
Tell me about those morning walks.
Oh, man, I still do them. I didn't walk this morning. at least one day a week I need a day, just no alarms. I just need to sleep in, and sometimes, but I exercise right when I wake up.
You're up early anyway, right?
I'm up early.
Yeah, so like you get to sleep until 7:30.
Yeah. I'm always up before the sunrise.
That's right.
And I like it, which is funny because you talk to anybody you knew in high school, it was the exact opposite. If I went to bed before the sun was up, I thought I was like, man, I'm getting weak, I'm getting old. I'm 18, I'm getting old now. I can't even make it till the sunrise, But now, like, I like getting up ideally I like getting up with the sun. And I just, like, lately I've been just walking down to the end of my street and back, or making a short little loop, and I do it 4 times, just 30 minutes. Put my headphones in some mornings the birds are chirping and the light's nice, and it's so therapeutic. I'm not trying to get huffy puffy and burn a bunch of calories. I'm just trying to walk and be with myself, think about what I want from my day and my life. And some days I don't want to think about it even that much. I just want to just be, just walk. And I come back and I start my day, and sometimes I want to work the next 6 hours in a row, no break. But that walk is hugely therapeutic. And I'll do it in the evenings. I'll do it at night. I'll do it whenever. But like this time when it's hot outside, I usually will walk sunrise, and I'm going to do it tomorrow morning too. I love it.
What do you listen to?
I listen to, like, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I'm on another level as far as my intensity of listening to music. I really, really get into music and get into a song, and I listen to such a wide variety. But I like, especially during the pandemic, I like walking to jazz, especially like 50s New York jazz. Just say like Miles Davis, Sonny Rollins kind of stuff, where there's no singer. It's pretty crazy, but there's definitely like melodies and rhythms, complexity. But I just like horns, and I don't know if it's because I grew up with Sesame Street or whatever, but I just like the sound of brass, and I like the sound of the way they recorded a jazz drum kit during that time period, where they usually, like, the drummer played in a pretty nice sounding room, and they put a couple of overhead mics, and they just picked up the sound of his drums. Now they mic the drums right on top of it, and everything's really loud and focused. But the jazz drummer at that time period was really open. It was just the personality of that drummer, excellent horn players, and a lot of it was improvised, but there was structure there. I just like it, like a John Coltrane's "A Love Supreme." There's a few different movements, but the actual, the very first part, acknowledgement, is really, really good. That was kind of my meditation. Forgot how long it is. I want to say it's like 8 minutes long. But I listened to that many mornings laying down, deep breathing with my eyes closed as a meditation. But when I needed to walk to relieve stress, I carried the music from the meditation into the walk. And that I just love it. And we eat dinner a lot with that in the background sometimes too. My wife used to not like it. A lot of people don't like jazz, but after a while, for background, like I listen to it more for background, it's really calming. And if you've never done it, John Coltrane's "A Love Supreme." It's on another level. And it's Miles Davis, Cannonball Adderley. So 2 or 3 really big heavyweights. And I think it was, if I understand right, it was the only time we all played together. So it's
it is hard to be with yourself in the ways you're talking about if you're drinking and drugging all the time.
Is it? I don't know.
No, but like
I wonder.
So just think about it from this aspect. Okay, you said you never, not never, but it's not part of your everyday because you want to be in control. And when you have to be with yourself, I mean, that's the most control you have, is like kind of being with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you're hungover or whatever else, you're not there, it's just going to make it harder.
It just makes everything harder. And I played in bands for 15, 20 years, and the majority of the guys that I played with, there was always 1 or 2 or 3 that drank more than they probably should have, and did other things. And it's hard to watch it. I mean, a lot of my closest friends did a lot of stuff, and it just never looked like fun to me. And this is before I woke up early in the morning. It just never seemed like fun. But I never judged anybody. Like that's the thing is like I never judged anybody. I have my own feelings about it. I definitely, it's not for me, and I think it's a bad thing. But for other people, do what you want to do. It's like I think it's knock yourself out. But I think trying to be sober and all that, people should try that first. I think and see if they can do it without it. I think everybody can. It just takes pushing through it.
Most people are probably drinking and drugging to escape something.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all doing something to escape something.
Yeah, but you're trying to escape being with yourself. And when you're not drinking and drugging, then you have to be with yourself. It's all right. But the more you work on that, like the beauty of why probably that it's never been part of your life and probably never will be, is because of all the work you did being with yourself, And it's only when it came to extreme circumstances that it really put the pressure on you, but all that work paid off.
That's right. I hope. That's right. It seems like it did, Because when you're younger, you never think of it as work. I just did what I did, but it definitely. There was, I put in. You just put in the hours doing what you do, and it's just it creates who you are, and you hope that it was time well spent. But if it's not, for a lot of people, it's not. And it's like, what do you do now? And I think you've got to learn. Everybody's got to learn to pivot. I think after the pandemic, if we've learned anything, everybody needs to learn to be able to be flexible and pivot. I think that's really, really important.
Change has never become so important.
Yeah.
Because the world's changing at a really fast rate. So, probably the reason that so many older people are kind of stuck in their ways and stuff like this, because the world didn't really change that fast in their day and age. But now the world's changing like daily.
I feel like every 2.5 years, it's like
there's just
a lot of change.
You know what I mean? And so, of course they're frustrated with the whole thing because they just want everything. It's pretty much been that way their whole entire life. Their whole life has been that way.
It's funny because I'm sure we when you're young, and everybody's young at some point. You think that's so silly, but it really is. When you get older, not everything changes. I'm certainly not probably going to be what I despise or what I thought was crazy, but I definitely I like some things to say the same. Like I think things are changing at a rate that I don't always feel comfortable with. It's inflation being one of them. It's like we're moving really fast, and I just look at the barometric pressure. I definitely feel like we hasn't been a lot of extreme joy. I don't feel like since the pandemic. It was that way before the pandemic, but it definitely. I think we're still coming out of that. We still got a long way to go before we really get to a good place again. Granted, we're all in probably good places here and there, right? But I just feel like overall, and maybe it's just because we're older, and like I said, after the last couple of years I have, I'm still kind of worn out, but there's a lot of good change that's happening.
That was some intense training you.
Yeah, it was. It was like Jedi training. It's like, man.
Okay, so earlier you said you become a different person you are finalizing being an adult when you lose your parents.
Yeah, I'd heard that before because you hear it, but like, man, when the people that made you, especially like your mother, and I was really close to my mother, and I had a really good mother, but like my dad, I didn't get to say bye. I hadn't actually seen him in a year. He got COVID and died, and I had been talking to him on the phone. But like my mother, I was there, saw her a lot. But like when they're both gone, and my mom was going, but I didn't really get to say goodbye. I feel like she was pretty much completely out of it when it was her time. But I think that she knew that we were there. But to not be able to say bye, and the people that made you are gone now, it's like, wow. And we don't have kids, so like there's nothing that's going to carry on after us, and we're not planning on having it. So I felt like, man, you really feel that. What's the phrase? The unbearable lightness of being. Like, yeah, I really felt like that. It was like it's so delicate, and it's here today, and it could be gone tonight. It's like it's just it's just nuts. And that was heavy. And it took me a while to get over that. It's not like I was worried that a meteor was going to fall out or I was going to get in a wreck necessarily tomorrow, but like you just realize that it just happened so fast. And the toughest part for me, seeing it happen in like real time, in real slow time, that made me feel like really an adult is like things like that happen and then life moves on the next day. You know, like
You don't stop.
it just don't stop. You know, it's like you walk out of the hospital and I immediately was told I need to go buy banks. I need to go talk to an attorney quick to get the ball rolling, or I'm going to be stuck in court forever, and it's going to be more of a nightmare. You have to tell their life story in for the paper, for the funeral, or whatever. We didn't, we just cremated, but like it's so many decisions, and I still really haven't had time to grieve. There was just no time to grieve, and I had to. I felt like I had to be strong for everybody else going through it, and it was tough. And I hate it because I kind of pushed everybody back a little bit. I think I needed to do it at the time that I probably really needed it, but I just felt, it's tough. You feel like an adult. I don't know what else besides having a baby and bringing another life. It's like this circle of life when that part of it dies and another part comes in, and I can't imagine like losing a child. But these things they make you feel alive. They make you feel, you realize that life is precious and you feel like an adult. And that, brings great resolve too. Like it's easy for me to try to kind of have a definite answer about how I feel something, and I don't have to worry about what anybody else thinks. I always think about, wish I could play it right now, but I loved Bernie Mac, a comedian, but he was always like, if people can't accept you for who you are, then fuck them. Period. Moving on. Thank you. Good night. It's like, and I felt that more than anything. But I like to be nice and kind of and be, be a nice, warm person. But man, adult death and stuff like that, it puts you to the test for sure. I'm glad I wasn't driving a lot.
I have not, at the time we're recording this, I have not lost my parents. But
spend as much time as you can.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
But I do have a child.
I know you.
Right. And definitely.
Which I knew nothing about.
So, but I know nothing about the death of parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm not there yet. So like that's why I'm so interested in this part. But in the same way, having a child makes you feel like, oh, well, I gotta be an adult now.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I mean, that little I can imagine. It's like that's heavy. That's you. You're there to get them to the next stage. That's your job. There's no other job. That's your job. And it's funny. Like I know a lot of parents don't like to hear people have kids' opinion on things, but like I'm counting on parents being good parents and raising their kids to be decent human beings, because like the world needs more decent people. I think the world doesn't need more people; it just needs more decent people, and people that can learn to be loving and fair, and that job's on not just you, it's all of us. It's society, it's teachers, it's everything. I think we have to lead by example. Adults do that. Adults, it's such a funny concept. I don't feel like an adult most days. I feel like kids do it.
My daughter said to me the other day, she goes, Daddy, grown-ups is just another word for big kids.
It is.
And it is. And like when she sees it through that lens and she sees the way that we interact and stuff, it makes me really happy. I'm the only person at these indoor play places crawling in those tubes and stuff.
Oh yeah, because we're still kids.
Well, but I'm saying like nobody else can.
No, I know. Well, there's that too.
Like, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like, and then their kids are talking to me, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not here for you, sir. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're in the go find somebody else.
But you're there on their level, It's like, and we are. That's the thing is we like, we just get so. Man, if we could just be kids and just be like tactfully honest.
I talk to them. I'm not rude.
Yeah. No. I'm just saying like, but even how adults talk to each other, like we could still be the same spitfire spirit that we were as kids, but talk to each other, work out all the world's problems tactfully. We could still just be these kids full of imagination and wonder. But people have got to, I mean. like me going through those tough times. Luckily, I had gone through I had to work hard growing up. I didn't have everything easy. So like, I had good home training. Like I like nothing, never naive that the world's not going to be work. So I feel studs, it's like, this is like, you're not going to escape it. No matter how rich or powerful you are, you will still have to wake up every day, make a decision to do things for yourself. Even some people do the other things for you. But, I think that's what I worry about with some of the other generations growing up, having so many things so easy. And then other areas, of course, are not easy, but like all the technology, but there's a price for that. But right now, like kids keep growing up and everything's plentiful, and we're not in war yet. It's like, and that's great. Imagine getting bombed. Like my wife's parents, and were in Japan and England when they got bombed during World War II. Like my father-in-law, he's just passed away. Like his house was bombed as a kid. I can't even imagine it. We got bombed right now. Like, how crazy that would be. I mean, you're just running. You're far enough up north. You got to drive fast to get to your family. It's like, man, I just can't imagine that. Like these kids right now, they're not gonna. We didn't know that either.
I love zombie shows. I mean,
I watched a lot,
and I love post-apocalyptic. Like, how do we survive and all shit? Right?
Surviving stuff.
But like, I weirdly think about that kind of stuff all the time. That like, on any given day, for any given reason, like it doesn't have to be right or wrong. Military could just walk up to our door and go, "I'll come to your house."
Did you ever see Red Dawn?
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the first. That was the first movie we ever rented from the video store. But that movie haunts me to this day. They're in school, and the paratroopers are coming down. Russia's just invading America. Of course, wouldn't probably go down like that. But I was just like, and they were that first year.
It'd be drones. It wouldn't be parachuters.
Yeah, I know. That's the bad. I know. It's like, oh my god. I know. We're watching The Boys where they're like, they had that venom for the superheroes, but then the animals got it and get so great. But it's anything could flip on its end. I mean, now it's like cyber ransom and all that kind of stuff. That's just shutting down the internet. I mean, like, that's the bad thing about, we're so reliant on technology. I don't like it any more than probably a lot of people, but like kids growing up, they're not going to know any difference. Everything's relying on electricity and all that. We're already going to have problems. I think it's, we've got to teach kids to learn to do it out. Like they definitely need to learn to, they're trying to pass the legislature about keeping phones out of their hands until they're 14 or
13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those kids, I know it's around there. I know girls, it's like 3 to 5 times more likely that they're going to have mental health issues if they're on their phones during that time period.
Let me tell you my little experiment that's going on in my house.
Yeah, right.
So we don't do devices and stuff like that. Like, I mean, but here's the deal: they're still in the house.
Yeah.
So she's around them. So she kind of knows how to use them, and I don't want her not to know.
No.
But I want this is funny. I haven't told anybody this, but so my phone Bluetooth in my car, and sometimes she wants to listen to music right on the phone, and so she wants to pick it. So I just hand her my phone, and she'll pick it. And I've always told her, I go, but when I ask for my phone back, you will give me my phone, right? So I don't know where we're going, something like that. We stop, and I go, okay, I'm gonna need my phone. She goes, ugh. And I go, no, ma'am. I go, hand me that phone, and I just grabbed it and I pulled it real toughly, like out of her hand like this. And she just threw like the biggest fit, right? But let me tell you something. Now, when she does, she goes, Daddy, here's your phone.
Yeah, there you go.
We've never had that problem again, and I didn't have to get loud or rude.
No.
I'm just like, I am now taking this phone that I told you I'd be taking.
Yeah. And
your reaction is whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, it's good. Just restrain.
Hey, but
it's like precious.
But you know what's so funny is that like, I feel like I read about there's this kind of like epidemic where young adults are not letting their kids see their grandparents because the adults are having problems with the grandparents. And this has probably gone on since the beginning of time.
I've heard some of that.
But I think it's gotten way worse.
That sounds so bad.
Right? It sounds so bad.
Like political reasons?
Or just, just anything that they disagree with, the way they were raised, or what, lack of attention, or whatever else it is, right? And so it's just, it's weird that kids need their grandparents
Yes.
to be
Elders.
like to be like either tough on them in a different way,
Mhm.
like totally give them all the shit they want in a different way.
Yeah.
To
No, I
learn
agree.
balance and like people and like the way people are different and the structure of family and where things come from.
Absolutely.
And people don't have nearly enough
Diversity. It's like diversity.
Let me I won't put you on the spot, but look, is there some level of having your mother-in-law just wonderful being?
Yes, some days.
No, but that's going to be with everyone.
It is.
But like, you can see the big picture in losing your parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
She's
at.
Japanese too, so like she comes from the Japanese culture, which I've been to Japan and visited, Erica's family and her siblings and all that, and so it's really cool. She's over here and her she has a brother and sister still over there. It's a different. She's from like our grandparents' generation, so it's a different culture and like it's the second generation. So it's great to get that this late in life again.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I mean, all the different things interesting. It's challenging. It's
Well,
challenging.
living with people is challenging.
Living with ourselves.
I'm making.
I get sick of myself.
But I'm making a little joke. But what I wanted to get at is that, like, I always tell my girlfriend, anytime your parents want to move in with us, just let me know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm down for it because I understand the importance of my daughter being around grandparents and like those kinds of things. I want them to be there as much as they want to be.
And when they're gone, they're gone.
Yeah.
And my grandparents used to come down. They lived in Louisiana, but they would come fairly often and stay with us, and they would stay for a while. Though my brother would have to we'd give them our bedrooms and we'd sleep on the couch. It was just this stuff. My mom's parents both snored really, really loud and wake us up, but it was just funny. I felt like I was so annoyed, when you're in junior high that happens and stuff. But man, I of course now I would get anything. And we didn't have all the phones and videos and stuff now. So now I may have a recording of some snoring somewhere, but other than that, I don't really have all that. It's like I miss it. I wish I could.
You said something really like valuable right there. That like when people came to your home, you had to give up your bed.
Give up,
yeah. You saw it as like kind of like you give up your bed, right? But what your parents were teaching you was like hospitality and graciousness and so then as an adult, you now have that tool.
Yep. Because I don't know where else we would have gotten.
Where else would you have?
Especially at home, So it's like it's good to have all that. It's good. It's just good to have I think throughout life, even if you don't have kids and you're 60 years old, it's good to have like really just constantly like different experiences because it keeps you sharp. Like we were talking about earlier, learning new technology keeps you young. I think being around not just young people, but just people that are different from you your whole life, constantly at all ages, that we're always around people that are in different everything. They think differently, different backgrounds and everything. I think it's so important because it keeps you fresh. You're constantly having to learn things. You're constantly having to learn to work with each other. I worry sometimes with all the politics stuff going on, but I never get into too deep. All I know at the end of the day, and look, thank God I don't get into arguments and dialogues with most people about this stuff, but we've got to learn to work together again. Everybody's going to have their differences and opinions, but if both people can really care about working together to come with a greater good, and that's not going to be a lot of people. That's the problem, I think. But if we can get more people to care about that, I think we're going to be okay. I really do. I think we just hey, before we get into something, you're going to say what you like and you don't like, and I'm going to do the same. And can we just we're going to work together, and we're going to make it work. Just make it work. I heard that so much growing up, make it work. Well, you screwed up. You need to make this right. That was like the way my grandparents would talk to me. You didn't do this, so now you're going to make up for that. You balance things back out. It's like being in music and you're EQing everything. You're equalizing. Like Denzel, you can balance everything out. It's I like the thought of that.
Well, I think Were we talking about the great Steve Stonehouse before we started recording?
Yeah,
Or after?
I think it was probably before, yeah.
I remember Steve said, every day, you start off with money in the bank. You know what I mean? And you gotta spend every dime, and then it's gonna replenish like the next day based on what you do the day before. The money you put in, the money you put out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how you spend that.
Output,
yeah. And man, that just stuck with me.
Yeah. It's good to think about that. I always thought about love that way. You create inside what you want, you send out in the world in hopes that you kind of get it back, and eventually it makes this like feedback loop thing that's just like love, and there's I can't think of the name of the song or the artist, but I heard the song the other day, downloaded it, listened to it a whole bunch, but this girl's like, it's the most powerful thing I've heard in a long time. She's just talking about like, of course I'm not going to remember the lyric, but she's basically like, whatever it is that I want, I'm not going to ask for it. I'm not going to work too hard for it. I'm just going to be about it. And I'm going to attract it. And I love that. She's like, I'm going to take my time. I'm going to be me. And I'm just going to attract what I want in my life by being the example. And I'm going to be this super magnet. But I'm not going to fight, wear myself out, get tired and die early. And she's like, no, just be what you want to be. Hopefully that's a good thing that will be a positive force that will attract itself. It'd be cool to put the song on there. It was so moving. I was like, that's just a cool way to put it. She's like, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to make all my haters into admirers, basically. But it was so cool. And the way she sang it sounded like what she was singing about. It was just like, man, I'm going to walk a little slower today. It was nice.
Well, I think, when we talk about putting in work, where the real work should be put in is in you, inside, right? And a lot of people,
you're the only concept.
A lot of people put the work out externally. It's like what I do at work, what I do for others, and there is importance of all those things, but ultimately it all starts with you.
Yeah.
So if it's starting from a shit place, it's probably gonna get shit results, right? So again, back to health, taking care of yourself, mental health, all that shit. It's like the work is like that, and that's how you become a super magnet.
Yeah,
and is by putting in the work on yourself and attracting that stuff.
It's a powerful concept. That'd be a great concept to really. I mean, they probably work on it in some schools, but that concept, you just don't let kids get too cocky too early, right? But let them put in the work, but also just like. I think we need to slow down. I always worry about American culture. We're just such a hustle culture. I described the other day something to somebody, and it was eye-opening for me, but he was like, wow, he's like, I never thought of it like that. And I was talking about how, it's tough living sometimes and doing all the things we got to do because we constantly have a tiger on our back to the day we die. We constantly have to make money to survive or we're going to be on the street. Or whatever. And if you're on the street, then you may die or go to jail. So it's like I thought our whole lives were it's just this dog eat dog. But that's just no way to live.
Here's the bit. You have to pick something that generates money that is your purpose or your passion.
Which I'm trying to do.
Right. And I think the unfortunate part about it is most people have to work for money to survive. They don't get to pick their purpose and passion. But that's because they've chose not to pick their purpose or passion, or they have priced themselves out of their purpose.
Yeah.
You can maintain your lifestyle with your income because of the life you set up, the simplicity of it.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing.
And that's
by design, by the way.
Well,
for sure.
that is the way. Now we live in a modern world where there will be debt and things like that. But you can't get yourself on the wrong side of things like that because now you're trapped to you're a slave to money, and that's a lot of energy.
I gotta say yes more often when I really want to say no. Yeah, I don't ever want to be in a position where I have to compromise.
But now you get to do that because you create.
Yeah. I'm hoping it'll last.
Did losing your parents teach you something about simple life as well? Was there a lesson there?
For sure. Especially, my dad was living alone in the middle of nowhere up in North Texas in the middle of the woods, and it was a real bad situation. But, and he had done pretty well. he was a dean at a university, had done really well, had a really good retirement, but ended up squandering all his money because he had a young girl got at him. I don't know, we still don't know if it was blackmail or she could have held him up at gunpoint. I have no idea. Or he just was in love with her and just gave all his money away, but she took everything. It was just like, here's a reminder to just, like, even the money you think you may have when you get older and that you may live longer, but you may die and you may also be broke, you know. It's like, I think living really simply is really important. My mom and stepdad were both teachers. They lived a very simple life and had everything they needed. They didn't have everything they wanted, but they lived a good life and had a payments that came when they were able to retire at a certain point and just live a good life till the end, you know. But they lived very simple out in the country, like we were talking earlier, like kind of off the grid, almost had well water, and it was very simple. They had a very small, modest house and stuff. But I went out there for 30 years. It was on a bunch of land, and there's good and bad things about growing older out in the country. I think when you get to a certain point, you have health issues. It is a terrible idea.
Well,
absolutely,
it's too much isolation.
Yes, too much isolation, and like my mom got sick initially. What put her in the hospital, and she had pneumonia. She was recovering at home, but then she got the phlegm got hung in her throat, and she couldn't breathe. So I had to call 911. It took them an hour to get there. They got lost. I had to go get in my truck and go find them and then bring them out there. That's the problem being rural, you know. It's like, and you know, luckily she didn't pass away there, but I mean, I think that did damage. It scared her so bad when she got to the hospital. She didn't really want to be alone and live alone. We were going to move here, but there was a lot of, like you were asking, there's a lot of lessons about just living a simple life. Like I was talking to somebody.
You don't need a lot to be happy.
No.
It's so little. I mean, I love all the other things that make me happy. But really, at the end of the day, the things that you need is so simple.
It's so simple. It could be so simple. Like you know, you've got children. It's a different story, but like we die, like where's our money going? Like whatever we have left, we're not taking it with us. So it's like all that doesn't really matter. I mean, we need enough of it to survive and all that, but it's like it's just like it's crazy. They live very modest, you know, and it was just tough because it was hard because they were out in the country, and like not only did I lose them, but I lost where the land that they lived on. We sold the land and the house and the place that I had gone to for 35 plus years, most of my life out there. That was just as hard because it was like my gateway back home. But it did hit home. Just live simple. What are the 3 things that you can't do without? Focus on those. I remember when I was in high school, the thing was like you'd ask somebody if tomorrow, this is back when $1 million was a lot of money, you know, it's like ask somebody if you got $1 million tomorrow and you could quit, you never had to work again, what would you do? And whatever the answer to that was, that's what you should be doing every day. You know, like I'd go surf in Hawaii every day. Well, you should move to Hawaii as soon as you can. You know, that's really what you would do if life had, you know. And I think that's, you know, it's not always that simple, but you could do some version. Go once a year to Hawaii and go swim, you know.
Well, or it could, at minimum, you could have a hobby.
Yeah, hobbies.
But I think, you know, I you know, since we last saw each other, I pretty much like stopped drinking.
Yeah, excellent.
But it was a thing of like, I just have too many hobbies. I have too much stuff I want to do. I have too much life I want to live. I want to get up in the morning and walk at the beginning of the day and not be hungover. I want to be clear. I want to be sharp, you know. And you know, and that level of responsibility and stuff. And so sometimes I'm just mind blown. Like, I mean, look, occasionally I have drinks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I don't, but like, it's really mean that it's always about the event I'm at. It's never about drinking.
Yeah.
And when I talk to like former alcoholics, they're like, wow, I wish I could do that. Like just,
I know. I have quite a few friends and clients that are all recovering, and they could do that.
Yeah, and so, you know, it's just, you know.
Yeah, enjoy it just a little bit. I mean, that way the cookies.
Yeah.
I recorded today. I worked on 4 songs today. Like I had recording on software and stuff.
Yeah.
Play guitar and drums.
You said you weren't like that technical. Like that you weren't with the technology.
No. I mean, I'm decent. And it takes me a while. I I have a book to how to use the program, and I highlighted and read, and I had to use it a couple of times today to do a couple of edits that were real technical. But that's a whole other thing. Like I was like working out during all that stressful time and playing bass every day. That was really therapeutic. But I hadn't worked on song. Like I like to write my own music, and I always wrote original stuff. I never played anybody else's stuff. But I just recently got back to like it just opened up. I got all these songs, like all this music coming back out again, just like I did when I was like 20. And it feels so good. It feels so good. So I've got like my Google Documents thing, and I've got songs started. I've got one I'm writing about my mom. It's really, really powerful. If I can finish it, it would be. I'm trying to like finish it so that I can like. It's gonna be a little sad, but it's gonna like feel like I'll have some closure. I need closure. I'm hoping that a song from me is gonna do it, because it's been that way a couple times with other songs I've written. Kind of like a chapter in my life. I was able to summarize in a way that I can look back on, and I am proud of any things I've ever done.
What were the conversations like with your dad as he passed?
Well, I didn't get to talk to him when he died.
But you said you talked to him on the phone.
My dad was the old school. My dad was a good person. I loved my dad very much, but we didn't have the greatest relationship. He left my mom when I was 14. He never really gave a good reason why. As an adult, I never asked him. I always kind of wanted to, but I never thought I'd get an honest answer. So for when I was, going through high school stuff, I was pissed off at him. I love my mom. He really hurt my mom and never gave us a really good answer. But through the years, he lived out in West Texas. We went out and went out there many times during the year. Hung out with him a lot. My dad could be really funny, but he was the old school silent type. He was in the military. He was in the military police, rifleman. We always felt like he didn't go to Vietnam. He was the only one in his company that didn't go to Vietnam. But, talking to his brothers and sisters after he passed away, we always wondered, like, what happened? We felt like something happened to my dad that made him leave my mom, made him kind of push away from us, and he was a very intelligent man, but he was notorious for making occasional really bad life decisions that was just like out of character, because he's very smart, very well read, very patient, very meticulous and all that. But he just, but I'm saying all that because it was kind of a strange relationship. He didn't talk about his feelings. We didn't talk about all that kind of stuff very much. But then the pandemic hit. His health, he was diabetic. He had a pacemaker. He wasn't in great health. He was also like 6 hours away. So we didn't see him that first year or two because we didn't want to get him sick. And we just didn't have a lot of time to get away. We were taking care of my wife's dad. So I talked to him on the phone every week. And that was the first time I talked to him for sometimes an hour about every Sunday or, on the weekends when I was taking care of my wife's sick father. We'd get a break from doing that hospice care, and I would call my dad. And it was really good. We'd talk. Sometimes we brush on life stuff. A lot of times we talk about movies. We talk about just random stuff. I was trying to let him know, I felt like I was trying to let him know that, I love you. Like if we could be up there, we'd be up there right now. It was one of those big worries. Like there's a great Mark Twain quote that I saw recently. It was like, in my youth, I worried about a lot of things in my life, most of which by the end of my life never came true. And, with my dad, we were always worried about it, especially after my stepmother passed. He lived a couple of years up alone there. His health wasn't great. We were like, what are we going to do with Dad? He didn't seem like he wanted to move down here close to us, and we weren't going to move up there. Of course, we couldn't try to put him in a home, but people always say that. And it's like, it's not the easiest thing to do. It's not cheap, and it can be difficult. So we were worried during the pandemic, like, what are we going to do about Dad? So just calling him, I was also trying to feel out, like, what was he going to do? I was trying to maybe, like, get him to come closer to us as he got old. It was like trying to talk to a dog that ran away from home to, like, come back and give him treats. And I felt like it was working. Like, I actually talked to him the Sunday before he got COVID. And I remember him laughing. It took him a while to laugh, but when he laughed, it was guttural and it was awesome. And, my dad loved movies. And I grew up and he loved Mel Brooks and Monty Python, and I watched Richard Pryor, Cheech and Chong, and all that kind of stuff. So, like I got a lot of things from my dad. My dad was very artistic and had great handwriting and did architecture and stuff. But he hunted and fished, and he was just like very. He looked like a total conservative MAGA country bunk guy, had a gap between his teeth, but he was actually total liberal and very interesting, man. But we had good conversations. I'm so thankful for those now because that was it. I didn't know it was going to be it.
What was it helpful that you were doing hospice here at the same time to keep you present with?
Yeah, probably. I honestly, I think I was actually calling him before we started in hospice, but we went up to see her parents because they were older and her dad was not doing good even before he got put on hospice. So we would go up there anyway. Normally, I would call mom and dad while we were up there because we would usually stay the night, stay a couple of days. We were doing hospice. We were up there for 3 days every week for almost a year, which it's stressful. It's training, and we had like a second home up there where I was bringing books and my guitars and movies and just leaving them up there. But yeah, I would always call my dad in the mornings, and he'd always be, like watching the deer and all that. It was just great, like had I not had that now, I'd really, really miss it. It's actually when we had to clean all the stuff out of his house and all that after he died. He had a deer camera in his backyard. I remember taking it down and put the pictures in. I had like the pictures, the last tractor ride he had. It was just fun. He had shaved his beard, and I was like, "Is that Dad? He looks weird." And I was like, "He needs to grow his beard back." But yeah, it's one of those things. He got sick with COVID, and it was just like within a week and a half, it took him out. It was Delta, and Delta was real bad. He had undiagnosed kidney disease. So by the time he got sick, he was in the hospital, and he was intubated. He was on his belly. We couldn't talk to him. We were going to go visit him and say our goodbyes, but we were gonna. Me and my brother were both going to go. We were each going to have to take a turn and put on a spacesuit to go in. This was up in Texarkana. It was nuts. I'm really honestly glad that we didn't do that. Would have loved to have been there, but it would have been probably too much. And his sister, who he was closest with, my aunt, who I love very much, she was there and was there in the end. So it wasn't ideal, but I'm glad that it did what it did, but it just happened so fast, man. It just happened so fast, just like it was already during the pandemic, and it was just, man, like I'm telling you, just everything just sometimes will hit at once, It's like I hope it doesn't for everybody, but you just have to prepare yourself that it may not be what you want.
What was it like to clean out his house?
This was crazy. It was it's heavy. It's real heavy. It was particularly heavy there because technically he willed his house to this girl who nobody in the family is fond of. I tried to be cordial. She had to let us in. She was married to a police officer. He was there, and it was like, this is my dad's house. You've only known him a couple of years. I've been here. This is my dad. This is our stuff. His stuff. Our stuff. So I wanted to just be one thing, but we basically had like couple of hours in and out, had to get whatever we wanted to get and get out of there. And, technically we kind of weren't supposed to get anything, but, my aunts was like, you take whatever it is that you want and you take it right now because you're not going to get another chance. And if anybody gives you any shit, we're all here. So my aunts and uncles were all there. We had a trailer. So, but like, it's like an FBI search. Literally, you go in the bedroom, you start in the bedroom maybe, and you just go through everything to find any keepsakes. I found stuff that my grandparents had, family keeps, stuff from my mom even that my dad still had. And I had to, anything that looked like it was family stuff we just had to take. And it's heavy. You're not really able to go through everything. Luckily, the good thing was kind of funny. My dad was so clean, so military organized. And like, it was real minimal. His house is, decluttered, nice taste and decor and stuff. It was very quickly. Clothes, all that kind of stuff. But we were just trying to find like just the family stuff. And
okay, your dad included, but in general, what do you think makes people flip a switch in their head to like just abandon their whole family?
Loneliness. My dad was all loneliness. Like, never seen my dad cry, near cry hardly ever. But my stepmother passed a couple of years before the pandemic. she went down real fast. We don't even know exactly what happened. It was like an autoimmune thing. She just died suddenly. We went up, of course, like the next day to go see him and help him out and stuff. And he couldn't stop crying. I'd never say he didn't know what to do. She was real bossy, and my dad really loved that about her and needed that. And she was over the finances, and she was over the cooking and the cleaning and kind of that. My dad was old school. He liked that in her. She worked. I mean, she was very intelligent, but she kept him in check. She did so many things for her. So when she was gone, it came so suddenly. He's stuck out in the woods. He's retired. He's older now. I could tell the loneliness just overtook him. And this other girl was like, she's younger than us, and she was housekeeping. She had a couple of young kids from different people that she was trying to support, but her whole family ended up being criminals, and this is what they do. They take widow people and they steal all their money. Like, they've done this multiple times, evidently. So it was like, I found that out after the fact, but like, so literally we went up there to see him the day after, and she swooped in and she was there. My dad's like, I want you to meet this girl. And we're like, okay, well, we meet her. She cleans the house and she's going to help you out. Great. I'm glad. Thank you for helping my dad. We'll be up here to help too. But it was weird, but she totally took advantage of that. But get back to your question, man, it's loneliness, man. People do really bad. People give all their money away. They turn away from their families. I mean, when I was going through all this, I had a good friend of mine who was a probate judge at the time, and I had to call him to ask him legal advice and just general advice about life. And he had lost his parents in horrible situations too. But he told me he sees it every day. He's like, people out of desperation, maybe they run out of money, which my dad had also was running out of money, being lonely. He got taken, emotionally and financially. But when you get desperate, you do desperate things. So I think running out of money and being lonely are the most dangerous things that people can do. Things that you're gonna have happen to them.
At the time of his death, do you think he was happy?
No.
But okay, maybe rephrase that.
Yeah.
Was he not current circumstances, getting sick and all the things? Was he happy outside that? I think he found peace in the end. I think my dad was wanting that. I don't think he would have committed suicide, but I also don't know that he would not have. I think he was really lonely. His health was failing, and he had given all his money because he had evidently broke things off with this girl, but he had already changed the will. Because he was hanging out with a woman that he dated when he was friends with in kindergarten. And why couldn't he give her the money?
I know. But we talked to her briefly, and she told us that he had made a really big mistake. And I had warned my dad for a couple of years. So it's really interesting things. I told him in the nicest way because everybody else, his brothers and sisters, told him that he was stupid for doing that. And they criticized him so much that he didn't want to talk to him anymore. I didn't want him to push me away, so I just let him know that you need to be careful, basically what I would say, because I think that she's going to take, hits. It's hard. And one more thing going about my dad is like he left a will that said that, he gave all the stuff away, not to his kids. One thing, but then there was a paragraph in there where he was like, tell my boys that I'm sorry I wasn't as good a dad as I hoped. That was the kicker. That was the hard part, it's like he was very aware of it, and we thought it was so weird that he did what he did, and then he wrote that, It was just,
in the will.
Yeah, it was weird.
Why do you think he did that?
I don't know. I mean, I know he felt he was, I don't know. And that's what maybe something.
Did he mention any of that when y'all were having the conversations?
No. Nothing. He didn't mention a will. We didn't know what he did.
No, I mean, did he mention that he had screwed up? Did he?
Yeah, he made a couple of comments. I didn't know how that. I didn't know. I don't think he wanted to elaborate. And I didn't really probably want him to elaborate at the time. I was just like, let's just keep this good.
Would you wish you would have now? Like, do you wish y'all would have had all those conversations?
Maybe before he did all that. Not for the money or anything like that. Just to not have this mess with her. Because it was so messy. I had an attorney tell me for free because she felt so bad that she'd never thought she'd ever have to tell anybody this. She's like, this situation's so poor, so bad that you need to ask him for this piece of paper. When they give it to you, you just sign it. You give everything away and you walk away, or else you're going to be stuck with taxes paying for all this stuff for her. And she was like, "This is, I don't know how I got to this, but your dad really screwed up." And I had multiple people tell me that, and it was just like one of those things. But I love my dad. I had good times with him, and I had good conversations with him. I felt like I did have a little bit of closure with him, and I felt like he was suffering in the end. And I'm glad that it kind of ended. It was hard for us in the game, but I was able to kind of get through it. And now I can move on. And we had a whole thing. We put my dad's ashes someplace special. And all the family got there. And now we'll get together more often and stuff. So it's like, it's so exciting. He did. I'm a big Willie Nelson fan, and Willie Nelson's first autobiography. His first son, a lot of people don't know this, committed suicide, and he blamed himself for that for a long, long time. And he still, to this day, that's the hardest thing he ever went through, because he knew it was more or less his fault. His son suffered a lot of mental health issues, but he was gone a lot. Willie was drinking and on drugs a lot during that time period, and purposely was staying away from his mother and all that kind of stuff. But in that book, which he was almost my age now, I think he was 50, around 50 when he wrote that book, but he was like, your parents, my parents, because his parents abandoned him. He was raised by his grandparents. And he's like, they did the best they could. There's some out there that are terrible. Some that are out there that actually want to harm their kids for some reason. But I do think that that's probably not very often the case, and that sometimes it's just young, bad circumstances, but they really do. Like my dad, for example. I do think he loved us, and he meant the best. He knew that we had done okay, and I think he felt like he didn't have to be any more than that. A little lazy, but but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with all that.
This is the way I think about it. Someone might be giving you the effort that feels like 50%. But if I ask you, are you giving me 100%? And they look me in the eye and they say, yes, I'm giving you 100%. Then that 50% is all I need.
Yeah,
That's all I can ask for.
They can do that.
That's the best they can do.
Going through.
But like, here's where I have a problem. Okay, if I'm giving you 50% effort, why am I not questioning why I'm doing it?
Yeah.
Like if you feel like in our relationship together, if you feel like it's 50% effort, I should inquire why you feel like you're getting the 50% effort, right?
Yeah.
Because especially if we're in an important relationship, that needs to feel like 100 on both ends.
Oh, for sure.
And by the way, there might be a bunch of shit that you're doing that's not worth a shit that you could just get rid of and do this other shit and feel like 100% to that other person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
So that requires communication.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. And the good thing is my mother was all that. She was 150%, And I had a wonderful stepfather who was awesome. And I had many, many years. I was lucky. I was blessed. I had a lot of, so it all balanced out. I felt loved. If I die tomorrow, I've been loved. And I've loved myself. So like I can't ask for anything more, So that's what gets you love, gets you through it, man. It's like you get you through everything, It's like it just needs to be a little bit, but from the right places and like everything they got, And you can one person believing in you, even if it's a little Pomeranian dog, just like they believe in you, It gets you up every day, It makes you. We lost our little Pomeranian this year, like a few months ago, so I'm missing it.
What
fur babies.
What were the conversations with your mom like before she passed?
Oh man, I talked to our mom every Monday. She was like, I'd always call her, or I'd call her on Friday on my day off. But I talked to her since I moved to Austin in '96. Since I was 21, I called her every week. I went home very often to visit her. So I had been home a bunch. I had just actually got home before she was in the hospital for like a month. I went home because she sick, basically had pneumonia. We didn't know it at the time, but she just didn't sound good. It did 2-3 weeks. She wasn't getting better. She was taking care of my stepdad, who was dying of basically like Lou Gehrig's disease, and he was really in that bad last year, feeding tube, couldn't clean himself. So I was going home ready, but I went home. I took her to the hospital, took her to the doctor. They knew her situation, take care of her stepdad. My stepdad wanted to die at the house if he could, because he had been on that land for so long. So we were trying to make this happen, So they didn't want her to go in the hospital away from him in case he passed or something. So they wanted her ideally to stay at the house. So they gave her extra steroids and everything. I went home without, took the week off. I was going to make sure she got better. She just wasn't getting better, you know. And then she choked on her phlegm because she was having a lot of coughs. Mind you, she only had one lung because 15 years earlier she had cancer, lung cancer, and they cut one lung out. She was fine, but she always said that if she got COVID or flu or pneumonia was going to be bad. So she had pneumonia. It was bad. They felt like she could have kicked it, but she was worn down from taking care of my stepdad. So, you know, we didn't have a lot of conversations there at the very end, but she journaled and she wrote like a list of like 20 things. I haven't gone back and read everything. It's still hard to read, but like the very first thing she wrote in there, my mom had a good sense of humor, was, in my next life, make sure to learn how to hawk a loogie. Because I remember telling her, I was like, Mom, I know you don't want to spit it up, but I say that I've trained a lot of female clients, and no female client normally wants to go, and get in their mouth and chew on it and spit it out. I said, that's what you need to do, because that shit is blocking your airway. And sure enough, it got clogged in there, and that's what sent her to the hospital. So at the hospital, though, she got better. And so, you know, of course, was visiting her often as I could. And, you know, but I just wanted her to feel better. So I was just talking to her, just like, we usually got into pretty deep conversations. And she'd say a couple things deep, but I could tell that she was getting scared. So I lightened up and just talking about
How come?
Dallas Cowboys or something like, you know.
So okay. So retrospectively, do you wish you would have pushed those conversations harder?
No.
You don't want to know those things?
No. I had plenty of time with her over the years. I felt like at the end, I just wanted her to not be scared. What was crazy is like we had that year before we had that really tough year, like taking care of her father and passing and my dad passing. So we hadn't been anywhere in a few years, like traveling. So we were going to Yellowstone National Park, which I've been to. My wife had. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. We were really looking forward to this trip. And my mom was fixing to get out of the ICU and get put into a rehab. And my brother was coming up. She looked good. She sounded good. The doctor's like, "You're doing great. You'll be out of rehab." And she was like, the last thing she said was like, "I want you to go to Yellowstone." And I was like, "No, I'm going to stay here if you want to stay here." She's like, "Absolutely not. I'm going to be fine. You know, I want you to go." And I was like, "Are you sure?" Because she knew we wanted to go. I said, I do want to go, but I don't want to go if I felt like she was okay, but she wanted us to go, and I loved told her I loved her and kissed her and goodbye, you know, and that was about it, you know. It's the last time we see her. We went to Yellowstone like the next day, had a great trip, you know, lucky and unlucky, like the service in most national parks, especially Yellowstone, there's none, except a little bit in the lodging. You'll get a little bit at night. It's real sketchy. Texting and emails are hard. You can maybe have a phone call. But it was pretty good, but about halfway through the trip, like a nurse had called, not halfway through, 3 days before it ended, a nurse had called and like, "Your mom is not doing good. I need to get some questions answered from you." And it was really scary. And I had my aunt was checking on her, who was a nurse, and she was just like, there's nothing you can do. It was going to be really hard for us to get out early. It wasn't really hardly even possible. So she was like, "If you only got 3 more days, just get through the 3 days and then come home." So that's what we did. And that was stressful knowing that something bad could be happening.
Were you able to be present?
Yeah, I was. It's the odd thing. And I felt guilty about it at the time, and I still sometimes feel guilty about it. But yeah, I had such a visceral, spiritual experience. The last time I was there, the same thing happened. My wife and I both. It was such an epic time. There wasn't a lot of people there. The weather was turning cold. It was bear, moose, elk. And we were going out in the mornings and buffalo everywhere. They were right up to the car, and eagles, and just like, oh man, it was just like, this is like the big lesson. Like, I'm not religious, but I'm very spiritual. And I felt like the connection to the greater thing on earth. I feel it there. Like it was powerful, and it allowed me not to worry. I knew she may even be dead. And I was like, but I'm here in nature. And I felt like, you know how when people like you look up in the sky on one part of the earth, you know somebody's on the other part of the earth, maybe you're like looking at the same sky. When I'm in nature, I feel like I'm connected to all things that are nature. I felt like I was connected to my mom, oddly enough, there, very stranger things kind of but I really did. And it was like beautiful and sad at the same time, but we enjoyed our experience. We got back as soon as we could. My brother was there the whole time, so it he was worn out. We got there, and things fell apart fast. But I got home just in time. My mom, I know, was waiting until I got there, so both of her sons could be there. And I got the call. And literally, I got in at 1:00 in the morning. Doctor called me at like 1:15. He's like, "Your mom's not going to make it." He was really awesome. He's like, he told me, "Sit down. Your mom's not going to make it. I know it's hard." And he's like, and I told him I just got in. My brother, he was like, "There's nothing you can do. We can't even let you in here." And she's like, "She's going to stay alive as long as we keep the machines on." It's just tough to hear him. He's like, "So there's not a real hurry." He's like, "So you're not going to probably sleep much, but try to at least stay in bed." He was really not until about 8:00. Just lay there. Just relax. Just try to relax as best you can. He's like, "You're not going to do shit here." He said, "I'll be here at 8:00. Come in. We'll get you in here. As soon as I get here, the nurses will change over and then we can get you in here and we'll let you say your goodbyes and then we'll take care of y'all the best we can." So we got there. And, at that point, you're at least you're prepared. You're walking into that. But I hadn't seen her yet. It's terrible when you see him. She was on every machine the hospital has. It's terrible. She doesn't look, they don't look the same, and tubes and all that. And actually, she was intubated, like my father, so she was on her belly. So it's really hard to see somebody like that, especially knowing during COVID that that's what was happening. So they had to kind of do the same thing for her. But she wanted me to go on that trip, and I was there in the very end. So I made my peace with it. My brother was there. My stepfather got there, which was really tough. But it ended up being it's like a terribly sad, thing, but beautiful at the same time. Because when they're going to turn everything off, they took all the tubes out and they flipped her over, and then they let you come back in, and she doesn't look the same, but we could hold her hand, and she, you could feel that she was still there, but like at the very end, she was trying to open her eyes. And I think I felt her squeeze a little bit, and it was really powerful because we're like telling her, "We love you. We're right here. It's okay to go now," But it's crazy because there's a nurse there. She was really sweet. She knew my mom, and she was like, "You just tapped me on the shoulder. It's time." And they literally turned everything off. It's crazy. And she's like, "It'll happen fast within about 45 seconds." I didn't want to watch her. I just watched. It's crazy. I just watched the heart rate just go all the way down to zero. And I just did, But we were there, and I have a good friend of mine who's been through more death and tragedy than most people I have known, and he's an ER nurse. Started during the pandemic. He's seen a lot of death, a lot of COVID death, a lot of elderly end of life death, where people suffered. They were alone, and nobody was there in the very end. They had a very undignified ending. So he, at least with my stepfather, my father-in-law, and my dad, and my mom, we were, more or less, we did what we could. We were there as close as we could to the end, and they had somebody beside them at the very end, and that's what I hope for all of us, it's just in the very end, just to make peace with that. So. Thank God. If I hadn't got that, especially my mom, it would have been really hard. Especially me going on a trip into Yellowstone, I wouldn't have wanted to ever go back. But now we want to go back because that's going to be the place where I'm going to think of my mom probably the most. I'm going to go back when there's this Hayden, I think it's Hayden Valley. It's where the original buffalo are that have been in Yellowstone the whole time. It's where all the elk screamed in September and all that. And it's just, I feel like that's where I'm going to take a little bit of that, her ashes on the spread, just a little bit down there.
Do you think when she told you to go on the trip that she knew she would be okay? Or do you think that she maybe was like, "I don't know, but I'm not going to tell you not to go"?
Yeah, definitely. My mom's just like me. I think she did. Yeah, I think she told me thinking that it could go either way, but I won't go on the trip. She knew we had a rough couple years before, and we had my mother-in-law living with us. It's hard having an old, a parent in the house when they're older. It's tough, it's not always easy, especially when you have to work and everything. So she knew we had been through a lot and we really needed a nature vacation. And me and my wife love to travel. So like, it's so huge to us. So she did. But I really do think that she knew that it could have gone either way.
Well,
and I'm okay with that.
I do want to point out that she had this very selfless act.
She was selfless.
And that created this really great memory and now tradition and things like that. And like, that's a really great gift she gave me.
That's how I see it.
Yes. But like, like your mom had to do that.
Yeah.
And you had to, and on some level you had to allow,
No, I know.
You had to accept it and not fight her and not go, no, I'm staying, and go like, and be realistic about the situation that this doesn't make sense. Like there's an emotion there, but we have to, there's also a logic to the situation.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be ridiculous about things.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I feel good about the whole situation. The tragedies come where like, my stepfather, who we didn't think would last till the end of the year, and in fact he did. He passed just like 6 weeks later. He had to get there to the hospital to see her passing before him, and that hearing him scream since he hadn't talked in a few years was that was the hard. That was really what was really hard. So I went to he made it there. His kids brought him there, and they loved my mom also very much. We didn't grow up together, but we were all very close. So we were all there in the very end. But it was really toughest on him, and I loved him very much. He took really good care of my mom. My mom was taking really good care of him, and he knew that she basically more or less, got sick because she sacrificed so much of her energy and health to make sure that he passed on. So. It was complicated because he needed to be put into a home. He could no longer stay because he didn't have her to caretake his kids. It was going to be too much on them, so he had to go in a home after that. And he passed away 6 weeks later. I went 3 days before he passed to go see him. It was like one of those things. He was on so much morphine. For the first 30 minutes I was there, he didn't even know I was there. And he woke up for a moment, and we had a moment. We had a deep, deep, deep moment. It was almost to a dark place, but then it went to pure light and beauty. And I think that was like his moment with me, that he was good to go, and that was heavy. Actually, it's funny. I don't think I really cried when any of them passed until he did. I think at that point I was like, this is hopefully the end, And man, you see it hit you like, and I couldn't stop for a while. I was just like. And it felt good. But like I said, I had to be, you had to be strong, and I had a lot of work to do. I mean, during all this, I'm still having to do their estate stuff. There's nothing like dealing with a bunch of money-hungry attorneys and dealing with the courts and all that. Nobody cares that your parents pass away. They do this every day. So it's like, that's hard. But when you're dealing with the simplicity of life, it's just a simple life. And this is such a natural part of life. We're going to come and we're going to go. And, but it really, like I said, it's adulting on its highest level. There's no other way to explain it. It just really is. You just feel you have to be, you're on your own now. You have to be adult, and you see what it's going to be like. So I know what it could be like. And those are the good situations. You have to realize that it could be different. You have to be prepared for that.
Everything I do right now. So you said, are you 49?
Yep, 49.
Okay, so I'm 48.
Yeah.
Right. Everything I do right now is preparing for 80. Everything I do.
Yeah.
Even the way like I eat on some level is going like, I know at the end of my life I'm probably not gonna give a shit.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to eat pretty good right now, so I can not get the
same here. Oreos at the end.
Just everything is.
Absolutely.
Realizing it would be so awesome if this was a spring.
I know.
You know what I mean? And because so many people would be so good at it.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's not.
Probably. If we're lucky.
And a bunch of sprints will make you tired.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. This is pace yourself. This is the hare getting beat by the tortoise. This is like you got to just.
My favorite. This is such an inappropriate saying. But that saying where it's like the bulls are on top of the mountain.
Oh, I do know. I love that. Yeah. Baby bull says that. Daddy bull says that. Baby bull. Yeah.
Do it like because
I used to use it. Yeah, I used to use the dog. The bull was in colors, but I think the dog. I was like, Daddy dog says to baby dog, hey, let's swim down that hill and pee on one of those trees. Oh, that's what the baby dog says to daddy dog. Let's go down there and pee on one of those trees. And daddy dog says to baby dog, let's walk down there and pee on them all.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I love that. It is, but it's so true. It is. It's so true. And then the quote that I've been really focusing on lately, a couple of them, but one of them is how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, I love that. There's a quote from Jurassic Park that kind of says the same thing. It's something like, at the end of your life, it will have a shape, and that same shape was the shape of your everyday during the life of your lives.
I think that's where you're the most authentic version of yourself. When you said the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
Yeah.
In the sense of like,
it really is. That's the essence.
Like the way I look at everything is a little silly.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? But some people, the way they look at everything is super serious.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I mean, and like,
they just do their MO, but yeah,
there's got to be some level of balance of this stuff.
Yeah,
and also your way might not be everybody else.
No, but how that's like input and output again. It's like life and death. It's like how you go into everything, and this is like you gotta set that up so that it's just easy when you do everything. You try to do everything a certain way. It's just it follows through with everything. And then the other quote that I heard recently by a young guy, but it's very smart, is like, expectations are the curse of all happiness. If you, I mean, it's like it's obvious.
Okay, what about this one? Since we're talking about adulting and doing adulting things, this lady named, I heard this on a podcast. The lady's name is Patricia Sun, okay? And she said, "You either believe in God or you will."
I've heard that before.
Right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's probably maybe it's somebody else's quote or something like that.
Yeah.
That's where I heard it, right? But the point being, it's like at the very end, everybody somehow becomes a believer on some kind of level, you know.
The song that always resonated me, and I listened to it a lot recently. I'm trying to think about it. I watched somebody talking about the song, but it was I still haven't found what I'm looking for from YouTube. You know, and it's funny because some of these young kids they've already even, they had that YouTube put that free album out there. People they hate them. Kids don't even want to, they never even listen to YouTube. I don't want to know about it, but I'm like, you should listen to this song at least, because the lyrics of that, Bono at that point at like 30-something years old, I mean, he hit the nail, you know. It's just like, you know, I believe, you know, that all the colors will bleed into one, you know. But yes, I'm still running. I love that line. He's like, I believe in the kingdom come and that all the colors will bleed into one. But yes, I'm still running because I still haven't found what I'm looking for. But it's like this power, these colors, all this stuff, this life, and we got these thoughts, and we're able to move. And there's just so much of this thing we call life that, where does it all come from? What is it for? Where does it all go? Like all this, but it has to be. There's something deep, something big going on. It can't just be nothing, you know.
This final segment is brought to you by HeyJustBe.com. I believe that achieving balance in the mental, physical, and metaphysical aspects of your purpose through learning, serving, and creating can transform your life into one you truly enjoy living. Want to learn more? Visit www.heyjustbe.com.
So, anyways, okay. So, how I'm wrapping this thing up now, since the last time you came on, we changed the whole name to this whole different thing, okay? Is what do you do, you know, to just be the best version of yourself so you can be good for everybody else. But what I would like you to do for me, if you don't mind, is tell people what they should do to just be the best version of themselves when they are helping their parents through hospice in the last end of their life. Like, what are the things you did to take care of yourself? How did you take care of them? You know, how did you appreciate the relationship? What were the things you did in that last period?
I mean, you know, time could be short. You know, you got to know that it's all precious. It's not going to be there forever. So you just really have to be present. You have to, you know, this will apply in different ways for different people, but forgive yourself if there's anything that you feel like you've done. Forgive them if there's anything that you feel like they may have done that you have some resentment about. that may or may not be there, but I think for most people, especially the parents, there will be some level of that. But all that stuff doesn't matter. Just be present. It's hard to, that term probably will mean more and more as we get older and you get closer to death, but like being present is a very real thing. You just have, and you can only do so much every single day. That's like the thing. I mean, that applies to anything, right? Just being present, try to relax and just be authentic and be real and be kind. Don't be an asshole. Just like you'll regret it. Just be cool, And I would say, like, especially with parents like that, try to get as much as you can from them. Don't make them get paranoid. Like you think you don't want to let them think you think they're going to die soon. Like, but just like just.
It's your only chance.
It's your only chance, yeah. It's like it really is, and you're not going to get everything, and you don't have to get everything. But like, if there's something you want to know, you should ask. But if not that, it just
like try to ask like who they were,
yeah,
and like what they want people to remember them for.
Exactly.
There's this card game you can buy that's like basically ask your parents questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, my poor parents, I've already figured this out. So now when I'm with them, I ask them shit all the time. And it must be just like when I was a kid. Like it's like they're going through it again with me, where I'm just asking a shit ton of questions. But I'm like, I know,
I love it.
I know this is the time.
Yeah. And it's the funniest thing is they were young once, just like us. They did crazy stuff and they did funny stuff, and there's so many stories that they may have never told, that they want to tell, and they just forgot.
And sometimes at the end, they don't give a fuck anymore.
No.
And they're like, I'm going to tell you these stories. Like, you don't want to hear this, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway.
Yeah.
When your father, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and you have to be okay with that. Like, I think don't get weirded out. I think you got to be okay with like stuff. Like, just let people talk. But I think the biggest thing is just being present and being like open. Like, so that's what I mean by like forgiving yourself, forgiving them, being in a position where you love and respect, and just trying to let any negativity in the world, any negativity in the situation, all your work stuff and stress and all the stuff that you may be bringing to the thing, just let that stuff go and just be present, because they're not going to be around forever. And then sometimes they are.
Look, I don't. This is not some scientific theory or something like that, but I just, the first 6 years roughly of a kid's life is just crucial.
Oh yeah, those are the formative years.
Yeah, and I would also argue probably the last 6 years of his life are pretty crucial as well.
Yeah.
Right? And if the kindness and the patience and the grace that my parents showed me from 0 to 6, I'm hoping to show them from 70 to 76. And that's what you should remember. Like when you get if you're having to take care of your parents and you're getting frustrated and irritated with them, there was a time when you were a fucking piece of shit little kid, and they were irritated with you, and they had patience.
Yep.
Or hopefully they had patience.
Yeah, you just have to and you have to be prepared too that their personalities may change. If they're not feeling good, if they're scared, they're not gonna act like themselves, and they may act like a total jackass too. There's gonna be some of that.
There is a level of like I'm sure there's stuff that proves this, but you go through these phases of your life, and at the end, you're at 70, you are not the same person you are at 10.
No, I'm not saying like you were 60 probably.
Yeah, but like meaning that though, that there is with people in relationships, there are evolutions. Your partners, your friends, your kids,
like
your parents. You're growing. The change we talked about, like, and even again referencing something in the beginning, where everything's changing so fast, you need to change. Unfortunately, probably be adaptable fast with it, so that you make sure you're maximizing your relationships with these people, because they're probably going to be with that.
Yeah, and I think another thing too, that like you get scared, especially if like your parents, they live long enough and they get older and if they're sick or they're fragile, that you're going to break them or you can't do certain things with it. There very well may be things you can't do, but I definitely think you should try to do everything, especially if there's things that they want to do. Like, our mother-in-law just turned 88, and we took her to a cave that the steps were came up to her waist almost. We brought her down to a wet cave in San Marcos and took her on a cave tour, and we kind of bought it, but don't be afraid to like.
It's important for older people to remember I can do things.
You can do anything.
And
what's the worst thing you're gonna do? Get hurt? Like they're probably if they're old enough and having trouble doing things, they're probably already kind of hurt, you know. And
okay, so I don't know if this is
make them wear a helmet. That's
look. I don't know if it's gonna be a similar feeling. Okay, so my daughter's taking swim lessons.
Yeah.
And I keep telling her, like, going underwater and like coming up out of the water and like holding your breath underwater, all those things you did as a kid, it's like magic.
I know. Do you remember? It's a magic world.
Do you remember? Well, I mean, but it is, but it's not like when you were a kid.
Yeah, no, kid, you didn't know what was like.
I mean, swimming and being underwater. I remember. I mean, it's so much, right? And water obviously is powerful, but like as a kid, I just remember going under
that's a whole
and wearing goggles.
Yeah.
And I can't get her. There's no buy-in, and I'm just like, dude, it's so cool.
Could you show her videos of like other like little girls doing?
Well, there's other kids that like are before our class and like after our class.
Like on a big screen, go to a movie, let's say so you can see them. Yeah.
Well, this is my plan. I'm gonna show her videos of Schlitterbahn.
Yeah.
And go, and you need to learn how to swim so we can go here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's fun.
Yeah.
Stick her in the shower, she'll get water coming out of her head, like.
But it's the getting water from her nose.
Yeah.
So I totally hijacked what we were talking about. So okay, but like I mean, okay, so what? Just give me like 3 things you did to stay present, or what are the things you did to stay present while you were taking care of your parents?
Make them laugh. You know, I think that's thing.
Be with. Don't be on a clock with them.
Yeah, don't be with them. Yeah, just be with them. Because sometimes you're going to be tired. You're going to be short on time. Sometimes you can't stay all the time. You got to go. You got to go do things. But like, make the best use of your time. Be kind. Try to be funny. And just
a lot of grace.
A lot of grace. You know, like tend to the needs. Give them some things they want. You know, like tell them stories. You know, and ask them questions. You know, if they like music, you know, like a lot of people when they get grown up, I don't know why, I'm not like this, but a lot of people stop listening to music so much. You know, everybody used to like music. Let's play some music for them. You know, they really like that.
You just made me think of something. I feel like towards the end that I'm just gonna start telling my parents everything that I did.
Yeah, I know. I did a little bit of that. That could be like.
Well, but I was going to ask your advice. Like that was kind of because I mean, but like, what?
I don't want to feel like everything was a farce. Like they thought, I was like, I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I'm really curious about how much my parents really know. You know, like how much they really know. I'm gonna go.
Probably don't know as well. I think with our generation, especially, I think every generation is wild. But I know all these young generations think they're wild, but I don't think anybody was wild in Gen X. I think we were the wildest motherfuckers that ever were.
Well, the world was wild.
The world was wild. Yeah, I mean, it was just wide open. We were the dawning of computers, but we were just also like there just were no rules. We didn't do all these wars and everything. We just did everything, and nobody knew where we were.
But here's what I really think about the late 70s, early 80s. Okay, we were really thinking the world was still pretty safe.
Yeah,
but it really wasn't that safe. You know what I mean? Like, cause like there's a lot of serial killers that happen.
Oh yeah, that's when all the kidnappings of kids our age.
Yeah, right. And so like because we didn't have like social media and things like that, like it seems like it was well, but it seems. Yeah. But like my parents,
we weren't worried.
Well, they let us go everywhere and do everything.
I know.
You know what I mean? So but if there had been social media, they probably would have seen all the bad stuff.
Oh yeah.
Even though someone's always getting kidnapped far away from my hometown. It was never in my hometown that bad stuff happened. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Same here. And stuff happened.
But I'm sure bad stuff happened.
Bad stuff's happened on my street, but it's not every day. It's like it's just like bad stuff happened in my neighborhood growing up, and like it wasn't all the time, and it was never really a worry about it. It was nice to just not worry. And, you know, it may be good to talk to your parents about those times, too, because I think they all felt it. There's something else I was going to say that we heard.
Oh, I hijacked my bad.
No, I can't. The main thing is just be present. They really probably look forward to you coming.
More than
you would ever know, yeah. More than they'll ever say.
Like your dog when you come home from work.
They really do. I think in most situations, there may be situations they don't feel good or they just maybe don't have a great relationship, and there may be some, but but they really do. I think they really look forward to you coming, and they know it's not going to be forever. So you gotta step out of yourself and think more like what they're thinking. This is end of life stuff. Like, be on your best behavior. You know, it's like,
Okay, and let me say this just because I just feel like for some reason I have to. If you don't have a great relationship with your parents, none of this is going to apply. Okay, we're talking.
really won't.
It probably, so like,
But it's never too late to like.
Well, and also if you find that this conversation is upsetting you in a way, maybe you should talk to your parents.
Yeah. And just make some kind of peace. Like I said, I didn't have a bad relationship with my dad at all. My dad was a good person, but we didn't have a great relationship. We for a long time didn't talk. But I was trying to make up for that, but he knew I loved him. I told him a few times I loved him. He usually didn't respond back. But anyway, I needed to make my peace.
Well, you don't tell people you love them to hear it back. You tell them because
exactly.
you love them.
I just wanted to know.
I'm just letting you know.
And I knew that he knew. So it's like it was good. But yeah, it could be tricky. Like my stepfather, his kids had a different relationship than I was probably closer to their dad in a lot of ways than they were most of their lives up until when he left their mom. So and I knew that. In the end, I was very close, and that's hard. But I wanted them to be there. I wanted, you try to make peace with everything, but you have to not be selfish enough to not be caught up in everything, to be aware of all this kind of stuff, because the main thing too is it's always going to happen really fast. There's a lot of emotions involved, or there could be. So you have to just deep breaths. You just have to pace yourself and just step out of yourself and think about how they're seeing this.
Think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, it's all about the bigger picture. It's not going to be.
Think about that at the end of your life. You don't want your kids nagging on you.
No.
Think about that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that. I want my parents just to have a good time on the way out.
Yep.
They deserve it.
All the way to the very end, and it's going to happen quick. And for if somebody's sick or they live long enough, it can happen in any instant. It seems like it does happen pretty quick. So it's like, obviously my situations did happen way quicker, and it was, and none of it was sort of like seemed expected, because like my mom and dad were both in the hospital, and you knew it was coming. And my stepdad had a terminal disease, but it still kind of catches you off guard even when you're prepared for it. It's like it's kind of, but if you do these things that I'm trying to say, I think that you need to realize that you're trying to make peace with everything. You need to do that earlier on versus later. Like if you things you want to ask, things you want to say them earlier than later, but also be aware that like at some point early on, try to make peace so that if something happens before you're ready or something, then you'll be able to make peace. Because once they're gone, they're gone. They're not coming back. So it's like.
I would also argue the faster tell me if I'm wrong, the faster you make peace with it, the more you can enjoy it.
Yeah, that's mine.
As messed up as that sounds, but there should be a level of joy and celebration
Absolutely.
At the end of this person's life if you care about them like you should.
And the thing that it'll stir up that I knew it would, but it was stirred up a lot more than I thought it would, is your own mortality and your own death. Most people I know, like, it's hard to think about, even me sometimes, but I'm very comfortable thinking about it because I know that could happen at any time, and it's very natural. Even if it happened tomorrow, it's still like we'd had a good life. It's like my parents they made it to at least their 70s, and that's pretty good. It's not great. They could have lived longer, but it's pretty good. But like when you're in this situation, it's easy to get caught up in your own emotions about how you feel about death and your fears and you're scared and all that stuff. That doesn't matter. You have to learn to either deal with that, calm that, or just put it aside for now and just focus on them. I think that's the biggest thing. You get caught up. A lot of people I can see getting razzled and all that. You just want to make it comfortable. We're going to die. It's like it's part of it. You want to make it as pleasant as possible. They want to get out everything they can. You want to kind of come to some kind of closure with it so that it's a good experience. And in the end, if the people that love you, even if it's just one person, is there in the end, you did really good. If you made it a good distance and you did a lot of great things and you feel good about it and you have some closure to that, you can end your life and I think you feel good. And if there is something after this or whatever, like maybe that seals the deal and you get to, quantum leap to a great place after this.
Do you think that daily gratefulness makes you more comfortable with it?
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I had a dumb phone that for a long time. I had the old like slider Verizon phone. My wife had an iPhone. I didn't want to get an iPhone for a while, But I finally got one. It was great. But I remember I borrowed hers, and I got an Instagram account probably 15 years ago when I first started. I was going to take like a picture a week or a picture every few days of things I was thankful for around a little journal entry. So initially, my whole page on Instagram it's just my photo journal. I just journal, and I haven't even the last 6 months I've been in a lot of retrospect. I haven't even posted that much on my personal page at all. But I like to use it as a journal, and I like to practice things of just daily stuff that I'm thankful for. And yeah, it's important to just. It could be the same thing every day. Like, I'm thankful for sunrise every morning. I love a sunrise. I just do. I love the mornings when it's not 106. I'm thankful for that every day.
You know what's so crazy is I'm a morning shower person.
Yeah.
And now this sounds so hippy-dippy, but almost every single morning I'm like, man, I have hot water.
Yeah, I know.
Hey,
water.
Or just clean,
Yeah.
just water.
Yeah.
Clean water, hot water,
yeah,
hot water. In my second story house, in my bedroom.
Yeah.
You know, in the United States.
To be thankful for.
I mean, it trickle effects in my mind of just like, it's not just this one thing, it's everything is attached, it's so many things. And so then it just resets of like how I want to approach things. And it makes me want others to see how good they have.
No, I know.
How good they have it.
When you spend time with people at the end of life, you spend time with people who are way less fortunate than you and actually need help and they're thankful for it, and you spend time like doing things like doing without things for financial money and go camping and like in a tent and maybe not have electricity for a little while.
Don't shower.
Yeah, don't shower. When you do without in these drastic ways and these other like camping, these kind of little easy light ways or like practice, they really do. You realize like you got a lot to be thankful for. We all do, even the people that think they don't.
You know what's so funny is, so I'm gonna make this super short. Went to Kerrville, Texas. My truck broke down.
Yeah.
Okay. And I didn't get home until 2 in the morning. Okay. So it was a shit show. The whole experience was a shit show. Right. And as I'm going through it, I'm like, this is not the first time I've had a shit show.
Nope.
This will not be the last time I have a shit show.
Really.
This day has been pretty long.
Yeah.
But like, there's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm given tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And all that is, in its way, it's kind of gratitude. It's a kind of gratitude thing of thinking of like don't let this moment be bigger than you. Just
be present. Just it'll pass, you know.
Yeah. But there's a level of gratefulness there.
Yeah.
That I didn't have to figure that part out.
Yep.
And sometimes it's hard to stay present of those things and stay humble while it's going on. But like when you get on the other side of it, it's almost like it's very rewarding.
Yeah, that's why if you can do those things more frequently, like practice, like exercise, almost like reps. The more repetition, the more acquaintance you have with that uncomfortableness, you become more comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that's the key to me to life.
And you're better at change.
Just better, yeah. Just like that's all life really is. It's like it's just a bunch of connections and learning to deal with stuff. And so much of that is not having too many expectations. Like I said earlier, they're the curse of all happiness. When you expect everything to go your way, you expect this to do it. Like it always did that. I expect it to do it again. Well, it may not. And it's those expectations. If you feel like you're entitled to those always, then that's where your unhappiness is going to come.
Well, I still have expectations.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
It's good to have expectations.
I just understand they won't always be met.
Exactly.
And it's not going to be met on my timeline when I want it to.
Well, that's really what it's happening.
Well, and sometimes they're met higher than I ever could expect.
Well, exactly.
And I have to appreciate those too. That like, wow, my expectation was here and I got this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I got more.
That's why it's good to have low expectations. Kind of, it's like you shoot to the stars, but I'm always expecting low, and then usually it always goes past what I expected. But I'm okay if it's not. It's like, man, it's fine. It's like it's fine. Like, all we have to use some saltines. It's cool. I'm cool.
Hey, well, thank you for having me
Thank you
here.
for coming
And,
here.
thank you for getting pizza. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
absolutely.
Yeah. And
Eat some.
I'm gonna eat some. I can't do this. I have to.
I know I'm full. I'm probably at a bad angle. I'm all like, I ate like 4 pieces. I'm like,
Can I get a hug from you before we get out of
Absolutely.
here? Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right.